Well, it's taken a bit of time, but I've managed to finally connect with Jan Stander, who's in Palabora. Hello, Jan.
Hello, Anas. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for joining us, Jan. Jan, first time we've met, but I've got to tell you, I heard about your family back in the war days, and I've got a rough idea of the ordeal that you endured, but I don't have the details. And I know your story, or the Stander family story, is really encapsulates in very graphic way the farmers at war story. What you went through was quite horrific, and it's not really well known. I know hundreds, maybe thousands of farmers endured enormous hardship during those years. But the Stander family probably got hammered as hard or harder than anybody else. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have you take us through your family story, and it'd be interesting to start at the beginning, and we can just talk us through the events as they unfolded.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Anas. Yes, the Standers really got hammered there in the Mateke Hills area. Um, uh, Growing up there, I've got a lot of detail, and I not know that there has been a lot of contacts, and that the Mateke Hills Road itself was one of the most landmined areas in the whole of Rhodesia those times. But it will be my honor to try and share some of the details. Growing up there since babyhood until 2014 when we were kicked off.
Jan, just tell me, how did the Stander family? There was your family. There were two Stander families, I understand, that settled in the Lowveld.
Yeah, that is true. They were called the Brothers, Stander Bros. They originally come from Rustenburg, and as young men, they started on the Kitwe mines in Ndola and in Zambia, working there. And then they bought the property called Battlefields in the Nwaneti area.
Your uncle Ben, he
Mm.
went off to the Second World War, did he not?
He did. He did. He went to the Second World War. He was drafted, and he went there while my dad didn't go. Yeah, and he was caught there being a captive in Tobruk. He was in Tobruk, and then they shipped him to Italy, where he spent some time there.
And then back to South Africa, and then up to Rhodesia.
Yeah, they went to Zambia. They worked there. They and then they bought the property called Battlefields. As I said, Nwaneti Ranch was massive at that stage. It belonged to the Imperial Cold Storage. And according to what I know, it was so large that they decided to cut it up into farmable or ranchable pieces of 15 to 19,000 acres. And our ranch was the last one. And while doing that, my uncle or my dad, I'm not sure now, stayed on working on the mines, sending money for them to develop the property because it was bush. It was really the start of it. It was virgin land.
Virgin land. I'm sure lion were rampant. Being a stockman couldn't have been easy in those days.
Yes, it was tough. It was really tough. Just remember those days they believed in preserving their cattle, not having the conservation in mind, and trying to eliminate all these animals that was ravaging their stock. That included lion, leopard, lots and lots of leopard, and hyena, and wild dogs. Can't believe it. A lot of wild dogs, and they had to fight off these animals. Can I say? Yes, we had lots of elephant, lots of buffalo. It was like, if I may mention, right in this middle of the Kruger National Park.
Jan, so what year did they buy the ranch? The ranch, your dad and your uncle.
I spoke to my brother Archie. I thought it was late 50s, but he said it was more early 50s. They were the first guys there. Um, so it was very, very early. And while they were, or one of the brothers were working on the mines, the other one was developing it. They sent a lorry, old Bedford, down with metal stuff and all the wires, and they really started off battlefields from zero. So it was, let's say, let's be let's say middle 50s, when they started. That was before I was born. I was only born in 1963.
Okay, so yeah, real frontiersman, cutting a ranch out of a wilderness.
That's true.
How big were the ranches? How big was the property?
Battlefields was 19,000 acres. They spoke about acres those days, or Morgan. Yeah, so it was quite large. It was a long strip of land from the Mateke Hills right down to the Bubi River. And on the east, it flanked, or it bordered the TTL. It is about 80 kilometers from the tar road, 11 kilometers from the turnoff. If you go north, 11 kilometers from the Bubi River or the Lion Elephant, then you turn right, then you're on the Mateke Hills. So it was, you could just imagine yourself the roads in those days. It was cut from nothing. It was during the rainy season impassable. It was tough. Yeah, and they had in the beginning they had Land Rovers and all those things to get
Jan,
through this.
tell us about your earliest memories growing up on battlefields.
My earliest and most fond memories was growing up as a little boy and having the freedom. I don't know what my parents thought in those wild days, but I had the freedom of going wherever I want. I had this little gang following me, and I had my catty, and later on I had my pellets, and I would go into the Mateke Hills and just hunt whatever I see, little pigeons and stuff. So it was that was my fondest memory, and playing in the Billy River that was coming from inside the Mateke Hills, and we caught barbel and all that wild freedom that I had. It was magic.
And school, where did you go to junior school and senior school?
Yeah, that is actually a funny one, because at 5, my dad and mum decided it's time that I go to the hostel because that's so far. And the nearest hostel was Messina those days. And I did my primary school in Messina at the age of 5. They dropped me there at the hostel, and that was, now looking back, I can't believe that any parent can do that, but we survived. But I must also say, we were quite a few little Rhodesians in the hostel. Um, a lot of friends that we had there coming from Nuanetsi area, Mateke Hills area, and we were like a brotherhood in the hostel.
I'm sure. So how long were you? What were your terms between being taken to the hostel and coming back home?
Yeah. At first, when I was very, very little, we luckily had friends in Messina, the Ferreras, and they looked after me for, let's say, 1 or 2 weekends or whatever I can remember. And then they used to pick me up every third weekend. So for 2 weekends, you stayed in hostel in the primary school. And again, those teachers in those days, they gave us freedom. In the weekends, we can go into the veld and go and play in the Singalele koppietjies and all those things. But yeah, I had to stay away from home for 3 weeks at least. And then you must remember, if they pick you up on Friday, they only get back at the evening, at nighttime, to the ranch. And then I only had Saturday and Sunday, I had to go back to the hostel. So I had little time of that. So it was tough growing up in the hostel, but great.
So the two Stander families, how many children were there altogether? It was Ben. What was your dad's name?
He was John Stander,
Okay.
and my uncle was Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's John and Ben. They were the Stander brothers, and they had 3 children. It was Adrian, Letitia, and Anneline. They still the 2 ladies are still alive, but Adrian got killed in the war. And then ourselves, I had an eldest brother called Henny. He was 15 years older than myself, and then it's me and Archie. So we were 3 boys, and they 2 girls and 1 boy.
Okay. Yeah. And then senior school, where was that?
Yeah, at senior school, that is when my parents were already deceased. Then my two late of my brothers decided that the best school to go to was Pietersburg Hoërskool. And then again, my brother dropped me off there with his Alfa Romeo and said, have a good time, because he was there, and my eldest brother, they were also there. So I was in PHS, Pietersburg Hoërskool. And then, yeah, I only saw my parents long weekends, not my parents, the farm, long weekends, and luckily all the holidays, they came and picked me up.
Sorry, Jan, what happened to your parents?
My mother died in 1971, a natural death, and my father in 1974, also natural. So
Okay.
I was very young. I was 8 and I was 11.
Mm.
So that's quite young.
Okay. And you carried on living on the farm with your brother, with your brothers?
Yes, yes. What happened there in the meantime, in the 60s, my dad and Wimbane decided to buy another property called Benjani Ranch. It was about 40 k's closer to the road, so halfway to the tar road. It was right next to the Nwaneti Ranch, that as we know it now. You go through Nwaneti Ranch for 40 k's, then you get to Benjani Ranch. The name is obviously Ben and Jan. My dad's name was also Jan, so it was Benjani. And what they did there is they they farmed two ways. On battlefield, they had all the breeding herds, and then they would send all the oxen to Benjani to fatten up, and that was the closest to the for the lorries to pick them up. Yeah, and that is the reason why the moment that my dad passed away, my brothers started building houses on Benjani, and we moved to Benjani. So that was like the end of my stay at battlefields as soon as we moved to Benjani.
Just a bit more about growing up, on your teens in that area. What was life like before the war?
Yeah, it was as I said, it was really freedom. I was as they say, I was a lot lamiki, so I'm 10 years younger than my brother Archie. So wherever my dad and when Ben went, I was on the Land Rover. I was in those days they had the Land Rover with a wheel right behind the passenger, and I would sit like a horse on it, and we would drive all over the property, and they would shoot for the locals. I would see them working with the branding the cattle and herding the cattle and all those things. So I was really part and parcel of the whole growing up. My nephew or cousin, what do you call it, Adrian, he took me for my first hunt. I was still, let's say, 12 years old. He took me for my first impala hunt, and yes, we had the freedom of going everywhere. As soon as we went to Battle of Benjani, that was when I grew up a little bit more, and I took the responsibility to do all the hunting. And I really, my brother just decided, right, you will do the hunting. So I did all the hunting from the biltong, eland, everything, and all the meat shooting for the locals, for our farm workers. Um, yes, there's a lot of things that happened that I can tell you. My uncle Ben, he always took me to Shiba Ranch where Boyke Bosman was, and he would wake me up and say, "Jackson, we're going to fish." Then we go fishing. We went fishing up at Malumba where the boss of used to stay, and I can still remember. They didn't use any fishing rods those days. It was just a hand line, just swinging it in. But that was super fun, just going out fishing with my Ben. Yeah, and Audrey was my hero growing up. He was much elder than myself, and yeah, I went to see where they hunted elephant and all those things. Yeah, my dad and my uncle they used to shoot a lot of buffalo on the properties, and yeah, I would sit on top of the buffaloes and eat. And it was just a carefree time. It was just so magic.
Yeah, and then tell us about the war years. What are your early memories of the beginning of the troubles, as it were?
Yes, I can still remember clearly when we were still on battlefields that my uncle said, "Listen, you better be careful," because I was carefree, walking all over, no problem. He said, "Trouble's coming," and then I was at hostel in Petersburg when my uncle and aunt were ambushed at the home. They were the first people who were ambushed. They came back on the Mateke Hills Road, and they saw that there's something wrong at the house. They turned around, and as they went out the gate to Valley Ranch, they were ambushed. And yeah, my Tani Gerda, she was wounded, and he just pushed her underneath the bush. They went through the ambush and couldn't go any further. He put her underneath the bush, and she also recalls the hyenas and stuff that might have smelled the blood. And he had to walk for about 17 k's barefoot to Malumba Ranch to tell the people, all right, they've been ambushed, and that was the start of the serious
What year was that?
problems. I think it was about 76, 76,
76.
77. Yeah, 76, 77. I was at high school. I can still remember. So it must be around about that time.
So they were approaching the house, realized something wasn't right, turned around, and then the firing started.
Yeah, what I recall is they went to the house and saw that the dogs were all messed up and they were barking and something's wrong and they could see that it's not right. They better get out. And it was only them, the two of them. So without any other protection, and they just turned around and made for it. And by that time, yeah, I don't know what you must call the people who attacked them to be political correct, but the terms,
The tours or insurgents, whatever.
yeah, if whatever you want. I don't want to say things that I shouldn't, but the Terrs attacked them and ambushed them literally, and luckily they got through. And that was Ben's first contact, because I asked him, I asked my brother Archie, how many times has he been ambushed? And we worked out at least 4 times that he's been in contact.
So they drove through, but your Aunt Gerda was wounded.
Yeah, and the vehicle couldn't go any further, and he just put her underneath a bush where he felt it was safe, because she couldn't go on further, and he had to walk literally 17 kilometers, if I have it right, because it's quite a far plek. And he got to the Malumba ranch, to the Boshoffs, and where they alerted the people and they went to get Tanegera. But eventually she was fine.
Where was she hit? Do you remember? Yeah.
I don't know. I will lie to you. I suppose it's the arm or something like that.
So it was nighttime, and he just hit her under a bush on the side of the road somewhere, and then took off.
Then he had to take off and literally walk. And I promise you, it's far. It's really, really. If I had to walk that, it's very far. You can think. I don't know when he arrived at the home, but I think they arrived at the house late afternoon, evenings side. All these things that I say, it's that I heard what they said. So I think that is.
Yeah, and she heard hyenas circling.
Yeah, she heard wild animals, and that must have been hyenas that was smelling blood, and she just kept still, and luckily they didn't attack her.
Must have been absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he left a rifle with her or whatever, but she was alone there.
Yeah, and then the next ambush. I know there were several. I don't know if you can take us through the various incidents.
Yes, the next one that I can recall is when they attacked their house. When it was a house ambush, they attacked from the Mateke hillside or from the Gomo side, and they fired on the house. I don't know how long it took, but Adrian was there, Tanegera and Mobane. I still have photos. If I may, I will share it with you. But in the crossfire, Adrian had by that time they had the wire, the fence.
Yeah,
the fence, and he had one horse inside. And the photo that I have is the horse was caught up in the crossfire, and he was dead.
But
and that was the second one that I know of. And the photo that I have is of Ben with his Rhodesia camouflage shirt holding Tanegera, and with a lot of holes in the house, a lot of holes.
Do you know, did they have any idea how many attacked them, and what were they firing rockets into the house?
Always rockets. They always had rockets, and obviously AK-47s, and they usually came in big groups. Let's say 20. They didn't go in 2s or 5s. They came in big groups, and luckily the rockets went high. They went over the house. So that was with most of the contacts. They were shooting high.
Yeah. So just talk us through the daily life on the farm, on the ranch, when you're under this sort of siege. Really, how did they keep going? How did they keep ranching?
The bright lights. All the farms were allocated 2 bright lights for 2 weeks, right throughout the year. And these guys, it was I don't know what the age group was, but I think it was above 40. And they came from the cities. That's why it's called bright lights. And they were posted to all the farms in the Lowveld and all over Rhodesia. And these guys had to stay in their house with the people. And wherever they go, wherever they went to the cattle, these guys went with them. They were part of the family for 2 weeks, and then then we had to take them back to Nwaneti Ranch and pick up the other two and bring them back. So that helped a lot. And later on, they had, I know at Benjani Ranch, at our place, they had Charlie Company stationed there. So, but that was when it was becoming very hot. But it was terrifying if you think about it. These guys were traveling. The farmers, they were very brave, traveling with soft vehicles like Land Rovers and the Datsun Buckies, and my brother's self with a Mazda Bucky. That is what they were traveling with. They were taking their chances and just I don't know. They were super brave. I know of a few instances coming back from school. If we drive on the Mateke Hills Road, you know that it's being mined. I don't know. They just took their chances. They never traveled on the beaten track. They traveled on the right hand or on the left hand. If we were two vehicles, then the left hand vehicle would be on the left, next to the Mupanis, traveling as fast as they can, and the one on the right. So you were literally traveling so close to each other that you don't drive in the dust. The dust would come past you, and they would just bang it down and travel as fast as. I don't know if they hoped that they would miss a landmine, because that was not possible. And yeah, we got away each and every time. And I don't know about a lot of soft vehicles that was landmine, but quite a few military ones.
So none of your family actually hit any mines?
No, no mines. Not that I know of hitting any mines on that road. No.
And Jan, the local people, were they just caught in the crossfire? Or were they supportive, or were they on the other side?
They were supportive of us. They were really, really caught up in a bad situation. They needed the job. They were very loyal. Some of them were working for many and many years. And they were really caught up in this whole thing. In the end, when it got so tough that my brother had to leave the farm, I know that a lot of the workers went to Cherezi and Triangle and go and cut sugarcane just to stay alive. I also know that some of our workers didn't stay at our house or in the compound. They went right up. No, sorry, the other day I had a big mamba here, a big mamba. So I'm not list for that one. Just a moment. Wait. Okay, it's fine. Right. So these guys went to stay at the top of the farm or the ranch, right inside the Mupanis and the turf area, and just to stay away from the places where they can find them. So they were really, really, really loyal. I don't know of any one of them that would tengisa us, that sold us out. I know of a farmer or two that had these guys, or one of them. Let me just be more specific. Had a foreman that he knew he was selling him out.
Jan, and cattle rustling?
Nothing. Yeah, no, I'm lying. They did rustle. They because we are very close to Mozambique. They would steal it from the farmers, and they would just within a night it would be inside Mozambique, right through Ghana-Rizzo, it would be gone. But I know the Zimbabwe law was very, very strict for that. So if they caught you stealing cattle, you will sit for at least 6 years. But no. Again, the locals, the herders and so on, they were excellent. They were very loyal. They were very loyal. So if you say cattle rustling, it was few and far between. They didn't deplete the herds.
Okay. The herds were fairly intact at the end of the war, were they?
Yeah, they were. They kept the farming as good as it can. The fences was well kept. Everything was going as normal as possible, except for the Turs wanting to kill us, eliminate us.
Jan,
And another thing I can say why our road or Mateke Hills was so terrifying is because it's quite close to the Bubi River. So the Bubi River was like an artery for them to come in. They always had water. It was like you wouldn't get lost. So, and not far from that, you had the Mateke Hills Road.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it was a nice entry point into southern Rhodesia.
Yes, yeah. Jan, you mentioned there were a couple of other ambushes. Can you just tell us what happened?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to tell you all that I know that concern our family.
Yeah.
The other one was my own brother, Mihini, my eldest brother. At that stage, he sent his wife to South Africa to stay with her mum, Glynis, and he would stay on the farm. And his neighbor was Troos van der Merwe on Turf Ranch, and they would stick together. They would stay together and go to the different places on the farms. And at that stage, they went to one of our cattle kraals, quite close to where Nwenetsi Ranch starts. And when they turned up, the Turs obviously knew they had to go back this road. It's on the Mateke Hills Road, and it was rainy. It was this goody weather. They went up a slow hill with the Land Rover battling, and they were into this ambush that was at least 100 meters long. So there was almost no way of you getting through. And they shot at them, and they went uphill, and almost when they were over, one of the Turs with the RPG-7 got into the back of the road, and he shot at the Land Rover, and he hit my brother in his back. And obviously, I just the other day confirmed with Archie. Luckily, he was killed instantly. The rocket threw him out, and through us with the Land Rover could go downhill to our turn-off point to the house, and there the Land Rover got stuck or broke down, and he had to walk back to the house. In the meantime, as I said, hopefully Annie was already dead. They took his watch and they took his shoes and all those things, and then they went. Yeah, so he was killed on the farm, 77, yeah. And no, 78.
So how old was he?
My brother was 25, so he was 30. Yeah, my brother was 25, so he was 30. Okay, let's say a little bit younger because, yeah, let's say 30 because my brother lost his legs previously. The other contact that I can tell on the farm was when Archie, also during the war, and they were a few guys, they also stuck together. They went to one of the engines that pump water to the top sections. And they stopped the Land Rovers and they went to the engine block and so on. And all of a sudden, all hell broke loose because they knew they were coming to the engine. And they pinned them down there with the AK-47s. They couldn't move, and their rifles were in the Land Rovers, about 10, 20 meters away. So they couldn't lift their heads. They all hid behind the engine block because it was cement, and they shot the rockets, and all the rockets went over their heads. And because, and obviously they started shouting, yeah, you fucking Smith puppets, all those things, because they were in charge. They shouted at them, going to kill you today, you fucking Smith puppets. And they had to keep their heads down. And then the Turs thought, hey, we've got a problem. These guys are circling behind us. And then they took off. Luckily, nobody was hurt. That was the one of Archie, my brother. Then yeah, Archie, my brother in 78. Again, I confirmed the other day he was at Llewellyn Barracks. He was a trainer there. He was a, what do you call it? Instructor. Yeah, and he got his weekend or week off, and he got to the farm, and they knew about a Tur congregation at Gezani in the TTL, and they got a few guys together. Actually, farmers, just farmers. Under them was Hendrik Boshoff, Selous Scout, Johan Wolfhard, Selous Scout, Johan Fick. He was later also killed in they caught some poachers, and whatever went through their mind, I don't know, but they didn't tie them up, and he got a hold of a panga, and he started ripping up. And what I heard later on, he put up one hell of a fight. The grass was down. It was just blood everywhere, but they killed him there. But these guys went there. They had the confirmation with the military that they could go there, but without any assistance. They say, you go there, you know what you're doing, but remember, it's tough times. That was in 78. So they went there, saw the site, and they went down for the evening, and early morning they woke up and they went closer. But you had all these ladies cooking for and one of them saw them, and she made an alarm. And they started with this firefight and shooting like mad. And at some stage, one of the persons said, okay, we're attacking. And as my brother stood up, 60 mil mortar landed right between his legs, and it just amputated one leg. The other one was still in his inside his Mateke. I saw photos of that. The one was just mangled muscle and pieces of foot. The other one was twisted inside his Mateke. Yeah, and I'll come back to that one. The other day, he sent me a photo, which I don't want to send to anyone. It's quite private, where they had a picture of the foot right here with the muscle and stuff. That came from the doctor that operated him first on the operating table in Cherezi. Cherezi, yeah. But luckily that day, all right, the firefight was over, and luckily they had morphine and all those things, and they stabilized Archie. But obviously he was critically wounded, and they got him to the radio. And you can't believe it, there was a helicopter right coming from Mozambique, coming right next to them, and they picked up the signal, and they picked him up, and they flew him to Chikumbetsi, which was quite a bit, but not too far. And Archie will also recalls that as he was lying on the stretcher, he was still awake, obviously. He could feel the blood in the stretcher flowing as the helicopter was going up and down. He could feel the blood going into his neck, a pool of blood. He was lying inside the blood as he was going there. Yeah, and they saved his life and amputated everything. And right up today, he's got his artificial legs.
Did he lose both legs?
Yeah, he lost both legs underneath the knee. So he had a little. He has a little stump both sides, and he can put on his prosthesis. Yeah, and I was at school at that stage on a Friday. I came back from the movie Astra, and Archie's friend stopped next to me. Obviously, they asked where I am, and they said, "Right, get in. There's a problem. Your brother lost his legs." So we rushed up to Cherezi, and obviously, as a grade or standard 10, grade 8 learner, you do not understand if someone loses his legs. It will grow back. It will. You think all these things.
Too terrible, Jan. Jan, just changing the subject slightly. I don't know if you remember him, but I think the doctor in Cherezi at the time was Dr. Skinstad.
I'll ask Archie.
No.
I was
he worked on a lot of the guys during that time. He's the father of Bob Skinstad, who went on to become the Springbok rugby captain. Yeah,
yes,
it
might be him. It might be him.
I think he was in Cherezi Hospital.
Cherezi, yeah. We went to Cherezi Hospital, immaculately brilliant. Yeah. And you just walk into that room and choops, no legs. It was tough.
Where is Archie now?
He's in Musina. Yeah, being chased off in 2014. He resides in Musina. They've got a house there, him and Anami, and his children are in Poch and somewhere else. They're doing well.
Okay. We'll come to that. Jan, so carry on. I know there was another ambush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I think of Ben's ambush, him and his son Adrian, I called him Adri. They went down to the bottom section of battlefields. They were building a new trough, a crypt. And again, I confirmed this with Archie. When Ben said he will go with the leopard, Adrian said no. He has to carry a lot of bricks with his bakkie, Nissan bakkie. And as they got to a cross where that's quite close to where they're building the trough, they hit an ambush, and they got out and started the firefight lying next to each other. And Adrian got hit straight in the chest, and he died instantly. And my Ben carried on. He took his magazines, took his own son's magazines, and kept on firing during the firefight. And eventually, 2 of the terrorists were killed. And obviously, the Charlie or the company at their house rushed down there. They got to them. Adrian was already killed, and when Ben was wounded in the chest, in the lungs. And when Ben told me this himself later on, he said one of the medics got to him. It's actually funny to him. He said he was busy dying. This guy took a knife and he punched him inside his ribs, inside your rib cage, to get rid of the blood, because he was building up blood, and the blood was going out. I said, shit, I'm dying, but you are trying to kill me with a knife. And that is how competent these guys were, and they saved his life. Yeah, and the sad thing is, Tannie Gerda was at the farm at that stage, and as the Charlie Company came back, I said Charlie Company, it might also be Charlie Company, but one of the military guys said to Tannie Gerda, your husband is okay, but the guy with the beard, he's dead. Yeah, they didn't know he was. Yeah,
Terrible. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't know he was her son. They just said, but the guy with the beard, he's dead, as if it's someone else, but actually it was her own son. Yeah.
What a terrible,
And then
terrible.
later on, yeah, just to fast forward a little bit because I'm getting blurry, teary. When Bena was carrying on, he was. If they talk about battlefield rounds, they know Ben very well because my dad already died in '74. But everyone who came to battlefield, they know Ben because he was amazing. Going through one war, going through another war, he smoked and drank, and he was a very jovial, fantastic guy. Uh, when Ben stand up, and him and a bright light went to I don't know where, but they were coming back on the Mateke Hills Road, going to a little stream, little river called the Nyangambe, and where they got into a firefight, into an ambush, and they shot the leopard, and the leopard fell over, toppled over.
The leopard, the
And
mine protected vehicle.
the
Yeah.
mine protected vehicle, yeah, it was
Yeah.
shot and it toppled over, and they got out, and yeah, and then hopefully when Ben died quickly, or they shot him there. But the bright light, or the guy that was with him, had a terrible time. I don't want to go into detail here, but they actually, what do you call it? They killed him very slowly and very, very badly. So yeah, that's also what I heard from my brother. That's sad. And for years and years after that, you could see the engine block of the leopard. I don't know. They took away the leopard, and the engine block was lying there. If you go past there, you can see there's the engine block of the leopard. Yeah, so Ben went through quite a few things until they got hold of him. He would have gone on until forever, but these were amazing, amazing people. I take Wim Hendrik Boshoff of Malumba Ranch, tall, lanky Wim, great farmer. His son is still alive. His grandchildren are still alive. Going into an ambush, he got out with his 243, 243, and then he didn't know war, whatever. He just wanted to shoot. He said, "Pass block something." He just come. He didn't even have an FN or whatever. That was his rifle for every day for shooting kudu, eland, or whatever comes in front of him. No, it was tough guys. It was amazing, amazing people. They didn't call the Mateke Hills people the hillbillies for nothing. They were tough. They were tough.
Yeah.
They were tough.
What year was Ben killed? Right towards the end?
Yeah, I think it's also about 78, end of 78. I can get the fine detail from you
Yeah, no, it
because
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
I was just curious.
yeah, it was
So,
towards the end.
so now what happened at the ranch after Ben was killed?
What happened? Vijay, it was such a terrifying time that I didn't even attend one of those funerals. It was just one madness of war, and as you say, it was coming to the end, and I don't even know where they are buried or whatever. They just went on. The farm went on, and I don't think there were anyone. Tannie Gerda went to took it to Salisbury. She was there, and then later on, I think the farm was quite dilapidated. There were people there like the Spurs who trying to rent a place, and then eventually when Ben Viljoen from Marondera, they bought the farm. They bought him and his brother. He bought battlefields with Tanisari. Tanisari is still alive. I think she's still on the farm or the ranch. And then George Viljoen, he bought him and Tanisari. They bought Turf Ranch, the one that was next to us. So they came from the mealies and the corn and whatever, and they started farming there. They are well known. Actually, they farmed there for quite a while.
Ben, the lion and elephant, was that a bit of a watering hole for you guys in the better days, in the happier times?
It's honest, if that place can talk, if that place can talk, I tell you, from my late dad and my uncle, that was the club. That was the
Yes.
remember, I grew up there as a little toddler baby. My dad and all the farmers of the region, they used to go there and play tennis and
Mm.
get all the farmer meetings was there right up to not too long ago. But some of the instances that I can remember is they would go into a old year or New Year's party and party right through the night. They had a huge slab there where they would dance, and they would say, right, you can go and sleep in the Land Rover. And I would sleep in the Land Rover. And morning when I woke up, I can see that the sun is already rising in the east. So lion elephant right through those days, when there were lots and lots of farmers, that was their kuierplek. That was where you didn't go past lion elephant. Even the farmers until now, not long ago, um, you stopped there. If I went to the farm, I stopped there with my family, with my children. You never missed lion elephant. Never, never.
Still a wonderful place, Jan. We were there just a couple of months ago, and I think for everybody who grew up in that country, that hotel brings back some happy memories.
Super memories with Raitor, and he had a tame leopard, which we always went to go and look at. If we came back from school on a Friday, we would stop there for a cola tonic and lemonade, or for a what is the yellow one? For that one, we would drink our cool drink and we could carry on our merry way to the farm. Yeah, it was lion elephant. Amazing memories that we have there, uh, of the river overflowing. It's now again
Yes,
full flood.
I see that.
Um, oh yes, they've got a swimming pool there, and in the swimming pool, in the early days, the farmers would get there and they built the swimming pool with the money of the farmers or contributions. And then they had these cement slabs or tiles. Can you say? I might send you one of those photos as well. And all the children of all the farmers, they wrote their names in the cement, like Hannes, in Dietz, in Fani, and my name is Yanni. Still written. If I go there now, it's still there. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Lots of memories. It was, similar. Well, there was Todd's, but the one I got to know better was the Guai River Hotel
Oh yes,
in the west. That same sort of thing. That was really the country club for the farmers and ranchers, and everybody
it was a get together.
congregated there, played tennis.
Yes,
Everybody'd come with their weapons, their FNs and whatever, and just relax
exactly.
on the tennis court. I think the Guai Hotel was attacked a couple of times. Was the lion and elephant attacked at all?
I can't remember that. I will lie about that, but why not? Oh, I can't remember that it was. I think
Um,
it's one of the questions that I've asked. Why not the lion elephant? Because it was a soft target,
yeah.
but
Well,
not that I know of.
maybe there were too many farmers spending time there to made it a bit of an unattractive
Too many
option.
FNs.
Jan,
Yeah.
so when the war ended, you were what? You were 20.
No. I was 17. It was in 79. I was in grade 12 matric,
Okay.
standard 10 in 80. I was in 80. It was the changeover.
Yeah.
And I was readying myself, me and my friends, because I have quite a few friends that was my age. We were ready to go to the Rhodesian army for the next year. That was in 80 and 81. We would have gone there, and then all of a sudden everything was down, and I was a matric, and that was the end of the war. All of a sudden, I want to come back to the bright lights as well, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. But at that stage, my brother had contacts in the South African army, and they not invited me. I joined the South African service, not as a permanent, just as a conscription,
Mhm.
and went to the army for my 2 years. In that way, I got my citizenship because I did my army in South Africa. I got my citizenship very quickly because I joined the army, and that yeah. So I would have been in the Rhodesian army. I was looking forward so much because as a young person, 17 in matric, You just wanted to go to war and do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, sure.
That is why they use young guys to do this job. If they use old guys, they would say, no, 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 you're going to die there. But to get back to the bright lights, one of my jobs when I was at a holiday on Benjani, and I was literally 15, 16 years old, but I could drive. And then my brother would send me with a bakkie, with the Isuzu. He called it smoke and hassles because it was smoking and it had a lot of hassles. And then I had my two bright lights with me, and we go to Nwanetsi. And there was a big congregation of all the farmers bringing all their uh, bright lights back. And they call standard, or, yeah, Benjani Ranch. And then I was a little kid, man. Yeah. And then I get my two bright lights and I treat the other bright lights. They are off. I get all the guys on the bakkie, or the two guys, and I picked up some milli meal and some stuff at the shop at Nwanetsi. And there we go. In that landmine road, I spoke to a guy the other day from Peter Maritzburg, and he said, you can't believe it. I promise that is what I did. And my brothers thought it was fine. Send Yanni, he will go and get the bright lights, no problem. And I would drive all the way. It was 80 Ks, 40 gravel and about 20 or 30 tar road, get my bright lights and get back. That was part of the life. And the other thing that I can also remember clearly, every day at about 6 o'clock in the evening, you've got the agri alert, and it was my job to call our call sign, and I would call the headquarters. I remember I always had to say November Tango Romeo, nothing to report. And that was such a thrill to do that. November Tango Romeo, thank you, have a good night. And then all the farmers would pitch in to say that everything is fine. Yeah, I can still remember that so well. My rifle, or my protection on the farm was a 12 gauge shotgun. My brothers had the FNs. We had a big crate full of ammunition. By the way, I used that same ammunition to hunt eland, the military ammunition with the I say R1. Yeah, it's the FN, R1 FN. But I had this 12 gauge shotgun, beautiful thing. You can load it from underneath, and I had a bunk socket full of shotgun pellets. Hey, what up? I had a bag full of shotgun bullets. What do you call it? Shells. And if I go and hunt, I would have my little my tracker or whatever. He would hold my shotgun with all my bullets, and I would take the .22 or the 3006 and so on. So if I had to come in a firefight, I had the shotgun. But I think he would have run with my shotgun. But that was all. It was such a part of life. We had to try and live as normal as possible. While we were building, I'm talking a lot now. You have to stop me. But while we were building on Benjani Ranch from Mateke, from Benjani, from battlefields, 40 k's from there, my brothers pitched a tent next to the Booby River, and he even built a fireplace. Thomas, our cooker, he was ironing the clothes. It was a permanent tent set up while they were building the house on the hill. Yeah.
Wonderful years.
It was so carefree. Even in the war days, we tried to live through it. It was amazing. Amazing.
Jan, you say Archie was on the farm until he was forced off in 2000. When was he pushed off the farm?
2014. That is less than 10 years ago. He was one of the last ranches in Mateke Hills Road that was permanently there. The others were gone. The only person that was there was Broer Boshoff on Anvrij Ranch. He's a young guy. Everyone else was pushed off, and we were under the illusion that, all right, if they let us stay now, it's okay. We will. They won't do anything. In that time, my sister-in-law was teaching in Musina to get money, and so she came in every weekend, whatever. It was after the war, and then one day they just came with their letters and said, all right, we give you 3 days, then you're off. 3 days. And my brother phoned me, and me and a good friend here, Charles Schmidt, we went through. And they organized the lorry and they organized everything and they just started packing the whole house. And my job was uh, to get all the cattle because he started getting rid of most of the cattle, but he still had a few hundred cattle. And he organized with Triangle with one of his friends there with a feeding lot. And they sent the lorries, and I packed the lorries full of mombis, and they took it to the feeding lots where they just fattened them up and sold everything. So it was my job to get rid of all the cattle. Sad. It was also I have pictures of that, but within 3 days, a person who has been there for since the late 50s, because my brother was born in 53, he's longer than me on the farm. Since that time to now, they just stop your whole life within 3 days. Within 3 days, you change from a person who has 7,000 hectares of prime land, a brilliant farmer, Brahman, commercial, cattle, the best that you can have. All of a sudden, you have nothing. But we're not the only ones. I must also reiterate, we are not the only ones. Sorry. I'm still on the farming groups, the Masvingo group, because of the compensation and whatever, which I don't think we will ever get for. They don't compensate you for the land. They want to compensate us for the
Improvements.
What do you call
Improvements.
whatever you build?
Improvements.
But it's stagnant. 3.5 billion. I don't think it will ever happen. But I'm still on those groups, and then you can see how many farmers are in the exact same boat than us. It's not that we are singled out. Every single one, they are in the same boat. Yeah.
I'm
What a
afraid so,
thriving
yeah.
country.
It's a tragic, very, very tragic, sad story. But the world we live in, if you persecute white people, it seems to be acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so sad. And me and Archie went once a few years ago. We went to Masvingo and we spoke to the Masvingo minister. We had an appointment. We talked to this guy in Masvingo. He promised us the stars and the moon, and I don't know. And that was the end of it. It was just the end of it. And the ones that suffers the most, as you know, it's the locals, the natives, the person that are still there. They don't have jobs. They don't have nothing. In fact, I know a lot of Zimbabweans in South Africa, as you should know in Cape. If you go to any restaurant, you are being served by a Zimbabwean.
No, they reckon about 3 million Zimbabweans have moved to South Africa and absolutely desperate. So you're quite right. But that's another story.
They are desolate. That's another story.
I'm just really grateful to you for your time, and I'm pleased we managed to get this very, very sad story on the record. But my God, what brave people.
What brave people.
Incredibly brave. And I know that they were kind people who were trying to help the people around them and make the country a better place. It just seems like there's a terrific amount of injustice in this world we live in. And I don't know, I despair sometimes when I look around. It doesn't seem like there's too many people on our side, but we've just got to stick to our principles and try and carry on being what we are.
Yes, we're just holding on to our title deeds. If we get the promised money, we will have to go. Otherwise, we've got the title deeds, and one never knows what will happen in the future. But I don't see a lot of hope in the future. There's too many. I see there's a program on Al Jazeera that's going to air now. Please try and watch it. They should have done it at 12 o'clock. That is a program where they talk about all the gold and all the, what do you call it, corruption.
No, but I see it's been scrubbed.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it'll ever see the light of day. I'm afraid it looks to me like the bad guys are winning.
Yeah. And just to add, another thing is we went to Gonorizo many times with our FNs and everything. I sat on the back of the bakkie. Then we would drive. It was wartime. Then we would go to Gonorizo. Everyone was carrying you could hear the army lorries coming past. We would spend a day or two there, and then we could go back as normal as possible. But Gonorizo was one of our fondest memories that I can remember from the. And I heard it's picking up a lot. You've been there now. It's wonderful, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's a good story. Thanks to the intervention of the private sector, really,
Yes.
and some good people on the ground. Yeah, Gonorrhea is looking great, and long may it last.
Wow, that's great. Good news. Brilliant news. Johannes, and whenever you want to know something, please give me a call. Whenever no, there's just too many things to tell you. Abdul, growing up, doing all the things that boys should do in the veld. That's why you can't see it, but I've got all the horns of all the kudus, and not all the kudus, but everything here that I smuggled through. I've got a buffalo head here, and I've got everything. I was probably one of the biggest. No, you shouldn't tell that, please. I've got three big boys, as in big. The one played for Transvaal Junior, and so on, but they're big. And I used to go to the farm, enjoy the time. But at that time, I would shoot something. We didn't have any coolers. Then we would cut it up. Let's say an eland. I literally brought through a whole eland, take it to a lion elephant, freeze it in crates. Well, it's just nyama. It's not no bones, just nyama. No biltong. It's for feeding my family. And then we would freeze it in lion elephant. And then when we go back, I would put it in the front of my bakkie at the back, cover it up, everything, and I would get through with it. That is the way I could feed my family. Good meat, good meat. Yeah, that's another story.
I'm going to run now, but thank you very, very much for your time, and I'm pleased we've captured this piece of history here.
Yes, honest, it was good talking to you, and keep on doing the good work, because the one book that I read was excellent, and I will catch up on the other ones. And good luck with your moving to Zambia. Are you moving?
Yeah, I'm going to go and have a look. I know Zambia well. I've got very fond memories, and I spent a lot of happy times up there, and
Yeah.
quite looking forward to getting back up there. It's just got a great feel about it. Zambia, it's peaceful, and there isn't a big. It's not highly politicized like Zimbabwe and South Africa, and the race issue is doesn't seem to be a big issue. I just find myself feeling a lot more relaxed up there, and I'm looking forward to getting back to the Zambezi and being with black people again.
The bush. Yes.
You
are missing them down there at Darling.
Yeah, I do. I miss them, and those kind of people that know me and I know them, and we just get back to the simple life as much as I can.
They're so friendly. They're so friendly.
But I'll give you a shout when we've got something set up there, and you'll have to come and catch a fish.
I will. I'm a pensioner now, man. Since Tuesday, I'm officially a pensioner, so I would like to see Zambia again. We traveled there 1 or 2 times through there, other way around Chirundu and so on. But I don't know Zambia. I was born there in Kitwe, but that is it. That is it.
Now we'll get you back there, Jan.
Hannes, thank you very much for the interview, and next time I will be better with it.
No, you did a great job. Thanks, Jan. I'll be in touch, eh?